The intricate chandelier was unique, emitting a faint, flickering light. Entwined to the bone. But just as everything had calmed down, a sharp voice suddenly pierced the air.
Emily, you have no shame.
The next second, the powerless Emily was yanked up violently. Emily felt a buzzing in her ears as she slowly opened her eyes. A slap landed on Emily's cheek, causing a burning pain that cleared her mind.
Emily, how could I have a shameless friend like you?
Emily stared at the furious Sarah in front of her, momentarily stunned. She didn't know what had happened. She clutched the slipping thin blanket tightly and looked down, seeing the marks on her body. She moved slightly, and the pain made her gasp. What she had just experienced wasn't a dream. It was real?
What's going on?
What's going on? You have the nerve to ask? Emily, look at yourself now. You really have guts, you shameless woman.
Listening to Sarah's accusations, Emily felt the anger in her words and couldn't respond. She tried to recall, only remembering the scorching touch of skin.
This can't be true.
Emily shook her head repeatedly, refusing to believe it.
Has James returned? I need to see him.
As soon as Emily finished speaking, James entered the room. He was gentle and elegant, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, his face full of disappointment as he looked at Emily.
I've returned, Emily. I never thought the one to betray me would be you.
Seeing James, Emily's eyes instantly reddened, tears welling up, ready to fall at any moment.
I didn't.
Emily's voice was weak. Her body was covered in red marks, making it impossible to explain. Even opening her mouth to explain would only make things worse. Hearing Emily's denial, Sarah suddenly laughed, her mocking tone ringing out.
Didn't? Emily, if you didn't betray James, then explain this test result.
The next second, a hospital test result was thrown onto Emily's pale, delicate face. The test result fell in front of Emily. She picked it up and saw the results, completely stunned.
2 months pregnant, Emily, you're really something. James was abroad 2 months ago, yet you're 2 months pregnant. Explain where this child came from. It can't possibly be James's, right?
This is impossible. I didn't betray him, and I can't be pregnant. This test result must be fake.
Fake? Emily, your ability to lie with your eyes open is impressive. All the information matches you. How could it be fake? Could the hospital issue a fake test result?
Emily frowned, her whole body in pain, but the most painful part was her left chest, aching intensely. What was with the test result? Emily couldn't explain it. The information on it was indeed hers, but she had never gone to the hospital for such a test.
James, do you believe me?
Emily took a deep breath, holding back her tears, and asked him. All she wanted was James's trust. James quietly looked at Emily for about 10 seconds before speaking.
Emily, you see the situation now. The evidence is right in front of me. How can you expect me to believe you?
In other words, he didn't believe her. Hearing James's words, a tear instantly fell from Emily's eye, quickly disappearing without a trace. Emily raised her hand, discreetly wiping away the remaining tears on her cheek. She forced a smile at James, a smile full of bitterness.
Yes, the evidence is clear. How could you believe me? You're right. In that case, let's call off the engagement.
James showed no regret. Instead, a hint of joy flashed across his face, but only for a few seconds before his expression turned serious and pained again. Seeing his expression change, Emily found it even more ridiculous. Emily, you're a complete fool. James stopped loving you long ago.
Emily, even if you didn't say it, James would have called off this absurd engagement. With your ruined body and that thing in your belly, you're not worthy of James. Canceling the engagement is the smart thing to do.
The tension in the room was palpable.
Yes, the evidence is clear. How could you believe me? You're right. In that case, let's call off the engagement.
James showed no regret. Instead, a hint of joy flashed across his face, but only for a few seconds before his expression turned serious and pained again.
Emily, you're a complete fool. James stopped loving you long ago.
Emily, even if you didn't say it, James would have called off this absurd engagement. With your ruined body and that thing in your belly, you're not worthy of James. Canceling the engagement is the smart thing to do.
The late autumn night was bitterly cold. A clap of thunder echoed through the sky, a flash of lightning split the heavens, and a torrential downpour began.
Emily, do you see it now? The man you loved for so long is nothing but a scoundrel. In your most helpless moment, he didn't believe you. There was no trust between you two. Your love is laughable.
Emily painfully closed her red eyes, wiping the tears from her cheeks with a trembling hand, letting the rain wash over her to keep her awake.
I won't fall. I absolutely won't fall here and let them laugh at me. Even if I have to crawl, I will crawl back home.
She sobbed heavily, her slender, frail body trembling as she walked step by step towards home. After walking for a while, her feet hurt terribly. She gritted her teeth and took off her shoes, only to find shards of glass under the insoles.
Had I become numb to the pain? I hadn't even noticed the glass shards. Had I lost my ability to think? I couldn't even see through such a simple trick.
Emily didn't throw away the expensive shoes. She held them in her hand and walked barefoot towards home. Now, she looked like a pathetic, drenched chicken. Whether she had shoes or not no longer mattered. When Emily reached the front door, she was soaked through. The door was open, and Henry was sitting alone on the steps.
Henry.
Miss, what happened? How did you end up like this?
Emily didn't know how to answer Henry's question. How could she explain? That she had been framed? That she was a laughingstock to the Fu family? That her engagement with James was completely over? Emily really didn't know how to start. At that moment, her gaze fell on the empty living room inside. The sofa, coffee table, and all the furnishings were gone, and the place was a mess. The entire Emily's family home was in ruins.
Henry, what's going on? What happened to the house?
Miss, 2 hours ago, the company declared bankruptcy.
What?
Emily's legs gave out completely, and she stumbled back several steps before collapsing to the ground.
Miss,
Henry hurried forward to help her up.
Where are my parents? Where's my brother? Where did they go?
Henry looked at Emily, hesitant to speak.
Tell me. Where are my parents and my brother? Why are you the only one here? Where are the other servants?
Miss, Mr. Emily's father. He jumped from a building. His condition is unknown. Your brother was in a car accident on the way to the hospital. Mrs. Emily's mother is at the hospital now, and we don't know her condition. The other servants have left. I stayed to guard the house, to prevent creditors from taking more things.
What?
Emily found it hard to believe. She began to doubt her ears. Had she heard wrong? In one night, the company went bankrupt. In one night, her father jumped from a building, his condition unknown, and her brother was in a car accident. In one night, the entire Emily's family was in chaos. Emily looked around at the ruined home, feeling an unprecedented coldness.
Now the Emily's family needs Miss Emily.
Suddenly, Charles's words echoed in her ears. Now she understood what he meant.
Miss, you must stay strong. Miss, you can't let anything else happen.
Emily's body trembled violently. She hugged her shaking body, her ears buzzing, her mind in chaos.
I need to go to the hospital. I need to find them.
After a moment, Emily calmed down a bit. She forced herself to stand up, enduring the pain in her feet as she walked towards the villa's exit.
Miss,
Henry quickly followed her. She needed to make sure her family was safe. But just as Emily reached the courtyard, she ran into a group of burly, menacing men. They had fierce expressions, and despite the cold autumn, they bared their arms, showing off their intimidating tattoos.
Who are you?
A man stared at Emily intently, his gaze as if he wanted to devour her.
Are you Emily?
Leave me alone. I don't know you.
Emily intended to bypass the man, but he grabbed her wrist.
What are you doing? Let go of me.
Your father owes us money. Now that your family company has collapsed, there's nothing left to take but you.
We have nothing left. Check for yourself if you don't believe me.
I believe you, but there's still you, the precious gem of your family.
He tore her wet clothes apart, and Emily screamed.
Let go of me. Henry, call the police.
Henry ran towards the main hall but was grabbed by another man.
Old man, you still dare to call the police? Do you have a death wish?
Henry.
Henry was no match for the group of men.
Pretty girl, you can't even protect yourself.
Emily slapped the man and kicked him, trying to save Henry.
Miss, run, don't worry about me, run.
Emily turned and ran towards the gate but was quickly grabbed by her hair.
Pin her down. I'll teach her a lesson.
The men pinned Emily to the ground.
Let go of me. This is illegal.
In this city, I am the law.
The leader's hand reached for Emily, but then there was a loud bang. Emily looked up and saw a man in a black suit standing before her.
Who are you?
I saved you, and you don't even know basic manners?
Thank you. Who are you?
He didn't answer, but smiled and walked towards the leader.
Mr. William, please spare me.
I heard you're the law in this city.
Yes, the evidence is clear. How could you believe me? You're right. In that case, let's call off the engagement.
I agree, Emily. It's for the best.
James showed no regret. Instead, a hint of joy flashed across his face, but only for a few seconds before his expression turned serious and pained again.
So that's it? Just like that?
Seeing his expression change, Emily found it even more ridiculous.
Emily, you're a complete fool. James stopped loving you long ago.
Emily, even if you didn't say it, James would have called off this absurd engagement. With your ruined body and that thing in your belly, you're not worthy of James. Canceling the engagement is the smart thing to do. The next day, Emily saw her mother, Mary, in the hospital.
Mom.
Seeing how much she had aged overnight, Emily couldn't help but throw herself into her mother's arms. The two of them cried together for a while.
Last night, did William come to our house?
Mom.
Let me finish.
Emily nodded, remaining silent, but she had a good idea of what Mary was going to say.
William wants you, doesn't he?
Mom.
Answer me.
Yes.
Why didn't you agree?
Emily was stunned and looked up at Mary.
Mom. William is part of the same family. I've been humiliated and abandoned by James. How can I get involved with his uncle?
So what? Ask yourself, what do we need the most right now? Money. It's money. Look at this hospital room. It's the worst and cheapest in the entire hospital. Do you hear the noise outside? Do you see your father lying in bed? How do you feel knowing we can't even provide him with the best medical care?
Mary pointed to Emily's brother sitting not far away.
Look at your brother. Do you see his injuries? He can't even walk.
Without anyone to take care of him, he has to manage by himself, sharing a room with a bunch of strangers. Emily, our family is at a dead end. William is our last hope. How can you crush our last hope with your own hands?
Faced with Mary's questioning, Emily was speechless. Yes, William was the last hope for Emily's family.
Emily, don't you want to know why our family suddenly collapsed? Don't you want to find out the reason behind it? How could a century-old family like ours fall apart overnight? Don't you find it strange?
Emily raised her head abruptly at Mary's words.
Mom. Do you mean?
Mary's tears kept falling, and she was too choked up to speak.
Emily, in the entire city, the only family capable of bringing us down overnight is William's family.
Emily was completely stunned, her legs giving way as she stumbled back a few steps.
William's family. William's family.
Could it be that the bankruptcy of Emily's family was really related to William's family? At that moment, Mary suddenly knelt in front of Emily.
Mom. What are you doing? Get up.
Mary clung tightly to Emily's clothes.
Emily, I'm begging you, please ask William for help. We can't let your father lie here helplessly. We can't let our family fall apart like this. Only by getting close to William can we find out the reason for our downfall and seek justice for our family.
Emily felt a chill, as if a cold wind had pierced her spine, making her shiver all over, even though there wasn't a single window in the room.
Please, Emily. I'm begging you. If you don't agree, I won't get up today.
Emily closed her eyes in pain. At that moment, William's words echoed in her ears.
I've already started looking forward to the moment you beg me.
In the end, he was right. She still had to ask him for help. There was no other way.
All right, I'll go.
Mary looked at Emily, holding her hand and nodding repeatedly.
Emily, your father is now in a vegetative state, your brother is injured, and I, as a woman, am powerless. Our family can only rely on you now.
Mary's words felt like a heavy burden on Emily's shoulders, but what other choice did she have?
Mom, get up.
All right, I'll listen to you. I'll do whatever you say.
Mary stood up, wiping her tears and smiling at Emily.
Emily, I'm sorry.
Emily was taken aback, not expecting Henry Jr. to apologize.
Brother, why are you apologizing?
I'm your brother. Our family has fallen to this point, and I should be the one taking the lead, but I'm powerless.
We're a family. The situation has already happened, and it doesn't matter who takes the lead.
Emily smiled at Mary and Henry Jr., then turned her gaze to her father.
Dad, I will seek justice for our family.
With those words, Emily turned around, her shoulders slumped, her body weak, as she slowly walked away. She felt utterly drained, even walking felt exhausting. The collapse of Emily's family had caused a huge stir in the city. News of their bankruptcy was being broadcast repeatedly on electronic screens. A century-old enterprise had declared bankruptcy overnight, a speed that was truly astonishing. Meanwhile, in the president's office.
Mr. William, I just found out that Miss Emily is waiting for you downstairs.
Snap, the document closed instantly.
What did you say? William frowned, looking at Thomas, his cold voice suddenly sharp.
Mr. William, Miss Emily came to see you 3 hours ago, but the receptionist didn't let her up or allow her to wait in the reception room. Instead, they drove her out of the corporation. Now, Miss Emily has been standing in the rain, waiting for you for 3 hours.
Damn it! William's handsome face instantly tightened, and the anger in his sharp eyes was enough to devour someone.
He immediately got up from his high-end chair and strode out of the office. The rain poured down, sliding down her pale cheeks. Suddenly, a tall, upright figure appeared in Emily's sight.
William? Emily couldn't see clearly. Maybe she was mistaken?
Her body trembled, her legs felt weak, and all her strength seemed to drain away in an instant, causing her to fall backward heavily.
Emily! Suddenly, a furious shout, and she fell into a strong embrace.
Emily only heard a buzzing sound in her ears before she lost consciousness completely.
Call a doctor! He carried Emily and walked into the corporation.
Everyone who saw the scene was stunned, their eyes wide with shock, unable to speak. The receptionist who had made things difficult for Emily was trembling with fear. William carried the drenched Emily into the president's private elevator and into the office's adjacent lounge. He threw her wet clothes aside and put his spare shirt on her. His fingers touched her cold skin, and the still visible red marks caught his eye, making William's brows furrow even tighter. James cursed under his breath, wrapping Emily tightly in a blanket before pulling her into his arms.
Cold, so cold.
Emily showed signs of waking, her small mouth murmuring as she snuggled closer to William's chest.
Mr. William, the doctor is here.
Thomas quickly brought the doctor into the lounge. The doctor immediately began examining Emily.
High fever, 39 degrees.
The doctor started in 4 drip for Emily and gave her fever-reducing medication. He then approached William respectfully.
Mr. William, further observation is needed. Miss Emily's constitution is weak. It's best to dry her wet hair.
Thomas.
Thomas nodded and said to the doctor,
I'll see you out.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
The doctor and his assistant followed Thomas out of the lounge. William's gaze fell on Emily. He frowned, then went to the bathroom to get a hairdryer. He gently lifted Emily, letting her rest her head on his thigh, her long hair cascading down.
How ironic. Who would have thought the mighty William would be drying a woman's hair?
Once her hair was dry, he placed the hairdryer back on the cabinet and let Emily lie back on the pillow. Emily, still feverish and confused, frowned, looking very uneasy. William snorted coldly and stormed out in anger. With a loud bang, the door to the lounge was slammed shut. Thomas, who had just entered the office, was startled by the noise.
Mr. William.
Downstairs.
Huh? Mr. William, where are we going? There's no schedule for the afternoon.
To the front desk.
Hearing these cold words, Thomas knew something was wrong. The front desk staff was in trouble.
Yes.
Thomas replied, following William out of the office. The lounge door was completely closed, leaving Emily alone on the large bed inside. In the main hall on the first floor of KN Corporation, several receptionists stood in a line, heads bowed in fear, bodies trembling slightly. William's cold, sharp gaze swept over the receptionists, his thin lips curling into a sinister, arrogant smile.
Mr. William.
Thomas quickly walked up to William and handed him the iPad.
The surveillance footage has been copied.
William responded with a slight movement of his throat. The surveillance footage began to play, showing Emily's interaction with the receptionists from multiple angles, capturing their expressions clearly.
Dare to mess with my woman? You're asking for it.
William, filled with rage, grabbed one of the receptionists by the neck and yanked her forward. The receptionist turned pale with fear, struggling to breathe. She clutched her neck, her face contorted, gasping for air.
Mr. William, please, please.
Just as the woman's face turned red, William released her. With a loud thud, she was thrown to the side.
Mr. William.
You should be grateful I don't harm women, or you'd be in serious trouble.
The woman quickly got up from the floor, looking at William in terror.
Mr. William, I didn't know Miss Emily was connected to you. I really didn't know.
William, like a king surveying his realm, exuded an aura of intimidation and authority.
Get out!
William's thin lips parted, coldly uttering the word. He then turned and walked towards the elevator, his face full of anger, causing everyone to draw a sharp breath in fear. Throughout KN Corporation, everyone was on edge, careful not to make any mistakes. Today's incident was kept quiet by all employees, as if nothing had happened.
Where is this?
Emily woke up groggily, unable to open her eyes, feeling heavy and weak.
Drink this.
Suddenly, a cold voice sounded beside her. Emily turned her head quickly and saw William sitting on a nearby sofa.
William.
Seeing him, Emily quickly threw off the blanket and stood up. But her fever had just subsided, and her body hadn't fully recovered. Her legs were unsteady, and she stumbled, falling towards the ground. Suddenly, she was caught in a warm, strong embrace. The warmth made Emily feel momentarily disoriented. William picked up a glass of water from the side.
Drink.
He pressed the glass to Emily's lips. Emily's long eyelashes fluttered, and she opened her mouth, drinking a few sips of warm water. Her parched throat felt slightly relieved.
More?
William's voice was devoid of warmth, in stark contrast to his warm embrace. Emily hesitated, then mechanically shook her head. William finished the remaining water in the glass, then let it fall from his hand. With a loud crash, the delicate glass shattered into pieces. The sound brought Emily back to her senses. She gasped, looking at him nervously. When she met his cold gaze, she quickly looked away.
What? Brave enough to come to the corporation, but not brave enough to look at me?
Who said I'm not brave enough to look at you? I'm just a bit dizzy and uncomfortable.
Yes, the evidence is clear. How could you believe me? You're right. In that case, let's call off the engagement.
James, how can you say that without any regret?
James showed no regret. Instead, a hint of joy flashed across his face, but only for a few seconds before his expression turned serious and pained again.
Seeing your expression change, I find it even more ridiculous.
Emily, you're a complete fool. James stopped loving you long ago.
Emily, even if you didn't say it, I would have called off this absurd engagement. With your condition and that situation, you're not worthy of me. Canceling the engagement is the smart thing to do.
Emily bit her lip. William was someone she could never contend with in her lifetime.
I have to do this.
Emily looked down at her slightly wrinkled white shirt and, trembling, began to unbutton it. 1 button. 2 buttons. When she reached the 3rd button, William suddenly pushed her down. Emily, this is your fate. The moment you decided to seek William's help, you lost your dignity. But now, not only have you lost your dignity, you didn't even get William's help. Emily's tears flowed uncontrollably, falling even more fiercely. Not long after Emily left the company, her parents and brother were transferred to a special care ward. To take care of her family, Emily became busy every day. A month passed in the blink of an eye. One day, as she opened a container of chicken soup to feed her brother, she suddenly felt a wave of nausea and almost threw up.
Emily, are you expecting a baby?
Emily was stunned by her words. She couldn't believe it, yet she had a strong feeling deep down. There was indeed a new life growing inside her. Emily bought a pregnancy test, and sure enough, she was expecting. She hesitated, and tears began to fall uncontrollably. This child belonged to the family she couldn't. Just then, Emily received a message from William's people. It turned out that the mastermind behind her family's bankruptcy was her ex-fiancé James and her close friend Sarah. The two had set a trap for Emily's family, intending to take over their assets.
Mr. William, please help me.
William gazed out the window, raising an eyebrow.
Emily, keep the child, and I'll help you.
Emily hesitated for a long time, then touched her belly and agreed through her tears. With William's immense power, it didn't take long for James and Sarah to be brought before Emily.
Why?
Sarah glared at Emily with hatred.
Why?
My mother was supposed to be the mistress of your family, but your mother had to interfere.
It turned out that Emily's father had fallen in love with Sarah's mother when he was young. But Sarah's mother came from a humble background and was not suitable for the wealthy Emily's family. Emily's father had to part ways with Sarah's mother and marry Mary. However, after Emily's father left, Sarah's mother discovered she was pregnant. She truly loved Emily's father, so she kept the child. But due to poverty, she couldn't support her and died after years of illness and hardship. To avenge her mother, Sarah deliberately got close to Emily and seduced James. She thought she had everything under control, but who knew Emily would end up relying on William? After hearing Sarah's story, Emily didn't know what to say. But regardless, Emily's father had become a vegetative state, paying the price for his heartlessness.
Emily, I was wrong. I was deceived by her. Please forgive me.
Miss Emily, what do you plan to do with them?
Emily remained silent for a moment.
Send them to prison. They must face the consequences of their choices.
Thomas waved his hand, and James and Sarah were taken away. Emily touched her belly, feeling lost. Seeing her distress, Thomas whispered,
Miss Emily, Mr. William is preparing to propose to you, which is why he didn't come today.
Emily was stunned, then she smiled slightly.
All right.
Although Emily didn't understand why William liked her, she was tired. Spending the rest of her life with someone like him didn't seem so bad.